Council order, please rise for the pledges. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you. Please be seated. Item 1C is the invocation. Do we have anybody here? Anybody? All right, if not, I'll entertain a volunteer. Anybody from the audience want to say grace? Anybody from staff? Anybody? Don't all raise at once.
I can if you want me to.
Please.
Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for allowing us to be here tonight, and thank you for this beginning of spring. May we all look at spring and the growth in everything and have that within our souls. May each ever council member here do what's best for the city and your will. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Nick. 1D is audience participation. That is covered on the screen. If there's any item you wish to speak of, please see the city secretary and fill out a card, and you can speak on any agenda item that is posted. Moving forward, item 2 is consent agenda. I've had a request to pull C, right? We're pulling C. So A is action regarding minutes of March 5th, B is action canceling April 16th meeting, and D is action regarding purchase of a 3/4 ton service truck for Public Works. Any questions on A, B, and D? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor, I make a motion that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
A, B, and D.
A, B, and D, excuse me.
Do I have a second? Cindy, second? Okay. Cast our votes. Motion passed. Let the record reflect we do have a quorum. Councilmember Falegi is out this evening. 2C, action regarding retail retention, recruitment, and development services proposal with the retail coach. Keith Reinhardt, Director of Community and Economic Development. Keith.
Hello, Mayor, City Council. Bringing this item to you. This will be the 4th year where we're asking to partner with a consultant, a retail recruitment consultant called Retail Coach. They've come to speak to you for the last 4 years. We partnered with them for the last 4 years to assist, not do all, but to assist with retail recruitment for the city. I can give you a list of all the different businesses that they've helped recruit, but if you've got any questions, I'll be glad to answer.
Council questions for Keith? Cindy?
I'd asked some questions earlier, and looking at what was presented here, it's $20,000 plus reimbursable expenses. I wasn't sure what that meant. You explained that this includes mileage, but we're not paying any of that, and we haven't paid any of that in the last 4 years. That's good to know. Not knowing, I thought maybe we might want to consider a cap on that, but evidently that's not an issue at this particular point in time. The question that I have is our return on interest with Retail Coach. It costs us $20,000 a year for their services. And you kind of alluded to the answer, but how much money, based on the businesses that they help us get in here, are we getting?
Well, I'd like to
Financial
answer
benefit
that this
from.
way. I don't know that I put this in there. Maybe I did. But if I did, I'll repeat it, is that one of the things that we've shared with you over the past however many years is staffing levels. And this is a situation where it's a staffing level issue also. Mm-hmm. As I did put in there today, 4 years ago, I was the Director of Recreation and Community Services, and 4 years ago, I took over Economic Development for a senior management staff person, a department head, as well as their own personal intern. Yet I'm still over the same things that I was prior to that. They don't do my job, I do my job, but they help me do my job.
Right.
When I can't be everywhere at once. I can give you a list of the different, is there a dollar figure that I can give you right now? No, there's not, because as I've told y'all in every weekly report over the last 4 years, that economic development does not take, it's not an overnight thing. If you call me and say, hey, I'd like this business to be here, they're going to be here tomorrow. That's not how it works.
Right.
It's a minimum 2 years for it to happen. Throw out the first year of 2020 of COVID, when everyone shut down or all the businesses and all the progress we made, they're like, yeah, we're going to back away and see what happens, which was a wise move on their part. It stunk for us, but it was a wise move for them.
Mm-hmm.
Everything that I promised you over the last 3 years, that it would take 2 to 3 years, everything is happening.
Yes, it has.
Let it happen.
And you've done a great job with that, and we appreciate it. But I didn't know if, the businesses that they had recommended to you, if we had an idea of how much that they were bringing in or how many businesses a year.
Well, I'll read you off a few businesses that are, they do retail recruitment, and so do I. I do a lot of retail recruitment, but these are some of the businesses that they've helped bring in. Just so you, and this is not all of them, because the letters, there's a number of them that I can't say yet because they've signed letters of intent. That doesn't mean anything until they sign the contract.
Right.
And it would be wrong for me to mention that they're coming when they haven't officially signed that deal. But like the groundbreaking we had last week with Tim Hortons Coffee, Cafe and Bakery, Firehouse Subs, Kava, Five Guys Burgers, Einstein Bagels, Seven Brews Coffee, Bojangles Chicken, yes, chicken, Tropical Smoothie Cafe, Buffalo Wild Wings, Planet
chicken.
Fitness, Revival Fitness, Twisted Root Burger Company, La Ventana Taqueria, Del Toro Barbecue, and there's more.
Okay.
If you've got a couple hours, I'll be glad to go on, continue telling y'all, but I think we all want to get home at some point.
Not
Good
tonight,
list. Thank you, Keith. That's a very good list.
but that's a great insight into what this is, and I really think that needs to be promoted a little bit better for the citizens.
We've had zero reimbursable expenses. Most consultants, especially if they don't live right here, if you call them up here to if they're based out of wherever, name a city, and they have that in their contract that you reimburse them. Sometimes it's hotels, sometimes it's whether it's gas or mileage or whatever. And this is a standard thing they have with us. They've just never charged us, and they've hired a staff member that lives 5 miles to the north of us,
That's fortunate for
and
us.
he has never charged us either,
So, okay, well, thank you.
which is a bonus.
All right. Any other questions for
It's
Keith?
just a standard thing that they put in their contract.
Okay.
Thank you, Keith. Any other questions for Keith? If not, I'll entertain a motion for 2C.
Mayor, I make a motion that we approve 2C regarding the retail retention, recruitment, and development services as proposed.
Second?
And I'll second that as well.
Cindy, second?
Bless you.
Motion passes. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Keith. Item 3A, employee recognition and presentations. Gabe, what do we have this week?
So, Mayor, nothing formal. Happy to report we're waiting on the actual certificate, but the library has won the Achievement of Excellence Award from the Texas Municipal Library, is it Directors Association, TMLDA? All right, I get a star when I go home. 84 libraries in the state won this distinction. That puts our library up in the top 15%. It deserves repeating, but again, our citizen survey, 100% of people like the library. So, I mean, you can't get people to agree on everything completely, but apparently universal love for the library.
Congratulations.
So we'll have a formal presentation once we get the certificate.
Else?
I think the only other kind of recognition, our Mayor's Youth Advisory Council's meeting Saturday. We're doing Public Works, and then I think we're trying to arrange a tour of a local industry, so.
So Public Works, 9 a.m.?
9 a.m.
9 a.m. Saturday, Public Works.
Yeah, wear your crimson and cream, your Oklahoma gear, if Randy's going to be there.
I'm bringing a black cat with me too, so. All right, nothing else? All right, thank you. All right, item 3B is proclamation Child Abuse Prevention Month. Mayor Pro Tem.
Okay. Whereas children are our future and our greatest resource, and whereas every child deserves a nurturing family and a safe environment to grow into a healthy, productive member of the community, and whereas child abuse is one of our nation's most serious public health problems and threatens the safety of our community, and whereas in Tarrant County, 5,332 children were confirmed as victims of child abuse or neglect in 2023, and whereas Alliance for Children provided trauma-informed services to 2,325 children in 2023, whereas finding solutions to prevent child abuse is a community responsibility and depends on the involvement of all citizens, and whereas effective child abuse prevention, investigation, and treatment programs succeed because of partnerships among public and private agencies, schools, religious organizations, medical services, and our business communities. Now therefore be it resolved that Todd Flippo, Mayor of the City of Saginaw, Texas, does hereby proclaim the month of April 2024 as Child Abuse Prevention Month in the City of Saginaw, Texas, and urge all citizens to work together to help reduce child abuse and neglect significantly in the years to come. And he signed that today.
Do we have anyone from the Alliance for Children here to,
Oh, there she is.
would you like to come and say a couple words? Introduce yourself? Somebody else was playing with.
Well, thank you. My name is Julie Evans, and I'm with Alliance for Children. I've had the joy of serving this agency and Tarrant County as a whole for the last 19 years. So thank you for this recognition. Thank you for your leadership over this city. It is a joy to partner with you. I think identifying what is in the proclamation, we can acknowledge that it would be a great day if our collaborative work together wasn't needed. This is a hard road that we walk together. Alliance for Children has been serving Tarrant County for over 30 years, and nearly 70,000 children have walked through our door during that time frame as part of their child abuse investigation that's rising to a criminal level. And I can say that it is an honor to partner with you, Chief. We adore working with you and your detectives. They are an amazing partner to us and really ensure that the citizens in this community are taken care of, and they're fighting on behalf of our children. And yet we collectively long for a day where we can say this work is done. So thank you for your partnership in that. Thank you for your support of us and for the kids that we collectively serve.
Thank you.
Thank you. We want a photograph? Would you like a photograph?
That'd be great, yeah.
You want to go? You want to do it?
No, I don't.
Go for it, please. Myron, we got somebody here to take a photo or just? Oh, I was looking for Pedro, sorry.
Do you mind taking one as well? Thank you, sir. The chief's gonna pay you that.
Chief's a nice guy. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. One more. Oh, one more. 1, 2, 3.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you for your hard work. We appreciate it. We're happy to be a part of this. Item 3C, salary study presentation, Baker Tilly, Jada Kent, and Melanie.
I sort of say, that's not Becky.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. We have Jada Kent here with Baker Tilly to do the salary study presentation. Here she is, right here.
Okay, thank you. Well, good evening. My name is Jada Kent. I'm here with Baker Tilly. I had the privilege of doing your study And I say that because I'm also from Texas, and I only had to drive over, and that's nice when I don't have to get on a plane. So thank you. And I want to tell you about the study that we've done here. So I'm going to walk through, where do I point? Oh, there it goes. Okay.
Can you make sure you speak in the microphone so everybody can hear you? Everybody at home
Sure.
can hear you.
Is
Thank
that
you.
better?
Yes, ma'am. Thank
Okay.
you.
So I'm going to talk through what our process looks like, the overview of our project that we did with the city, kind of the timeline of how everything happened, some of the major results of the study, and then leave you with some of our recommendations based on those results. So our process for the city followed these 4 major phases. We started in project initiation, just getting to know the city, understanding your current pay plan, what positions you have, so collecting documentation, your existing job descriptions, your policies, and how everything is working. A couple of planning meetings, getting to know the department heads, et cetera. From there, we went out to market, asking for base pay information from public peers, and we collected private sector data. And then using that data, we built a new pay plan, worked on getting positions plugged into those pay plans, and have some implementation cost information for you from that. So we are in the final phase, just kind of wrapping everything up and putting a bow on it. So get into, all right, timeline-wise, we kicked this project off back in August. That was the initiation, the data collection, us getting to know you, having those initial meetings. We spent some time. We wanted to kind of make sure we were getting that list of peer organizations right. So that's a big deal. If we're basing everything on this market data, who are we collecting market data from? Who is your market? So we spent quite a bit of time on that, and we ended up with that data in about October. So launching the market study around November, December, I'll tell you it's tricky collecting market data when you get anywhere near Thanksgiving. So that kind of had some delays in the process, but January we delivered the results from the market. January, February we're looking at building that pay plan, and then here we are just trying to wrap everything up with March. So in that project initiation phase, I mentioned the data collection, all of the information we collected up front. That also included questionnaires from department heads, because we wanted to know what are the tricky things you guys are experiencing individually in your departments, because it's not going to be the same. If you've got a title issue or a classification issue, unique turnover, who are you losing employees to or gaining them from? Because that's not the same answer across departments, and so we wanted to make sure we had that feedback. So we did that with those department head questionnaires. We had a communication meeting to introduce ourselves and talk through what the next steps of the process would be. And then getting into the market study, just some of these, high-level terminologies. The peer organizations, we were looking at public peers, so cities and counties near you, similar in size, same services, and same size could be revenue, population served, number of employees, et cetera. But certainly we want to find those organizations who provide the same services as you, which is why we asked, who are you losing employees to or gaining them from across departments, just to make sure we had that included. For the private sector piece of the puzzle, we use published salary survey data, so Bureau of Labor Statistics, Comp Analyst, and Economic Research Institute. Using data from those sources acts like the private sector in the data set. We don't actually call up private sector companies. They won't take our call. They won't give us their data. But they do give their data to these third-party sources. So we know it's a good place to get that data. When we distributed the survey, it included a summary of the work so that we were not just, that's the same title, it must be the same job. We were actually looking at the position, what work is being performed. So the survey included that information. And then once we collected the data back, we did make some adjustments just to kind of make sure we've got an even playing field. So if there were differences in work week, like an organization having a 37.5 work week versus a 40-hour, just making sure we've got that right hourly rate to get the right annual rate before we plug everything in. We may age the data forward if it's not for the current fiscal year that we're collecting it. Usually Bureau of Labor Statistics is the only one that applies to. And then we also applied a cost of labor differential. And so that's a geographical calculation that's kind of helping us normalize things that are happening if you're looking across the whole country, or if you're looking in the Metroplex, or just other organizations that are not having the same kind of geographic premiums that you all are. That's how we can normalize that. For the quality control aspect, we do not weight the market data, so we didn't treat any peer's information more important than another peer. If it was a good match, it was a good match. We're looking for a 75% overlap in those duties and responsibilities. So that's the quality, but then the quantity is we're also looking for at least 4 of those matches per benchmark before we'll even calculate what is the market value. So again, I just want to really emphasize, we spent some time looking at peers. Who do we need to compare you to? I looked at what's a 45-minute driving radius just to see who do we, who reasonably is going to drive here or drive away from here that we need to be taking into consideration. Looking at Tarrant County, Denton, anything that really kind of touches you makes sense. And it doesn't necessarily have to be your competition. It's also your comparators. Who looks like you? Who do you want to be when you grow up, kind of a thing. So looking at these organizations, the one in pink are the ones that we ended up with, but you can see we compared quite a bit of data like cost of labor, cost of living, population, kind of different services and all of that as we were selecting those. So here are the 10 organizations, the public peers that were selected, and we were able to collect data from all 10 of those organizations. So pretty successful study. And then we've got those 3 published sources listed below. So ultimately we had data from 13 different sources. All right, a little bit more information on this cost of labor differential since this is an adjustment we made to the data. So cost of labor is not the same as cost of living. It does take cost of living into consideration a little bit, but it's more so the supply and demand of labor. So looking at qualified workers versus unemployment in a given region. So if you think of a really affluent community who probably has very little unemployment rate, that's how cost of living can kind of influence that. But for the most part, cost of labor is looking at what is the direction of wages, not the direction of, bread is all of a sudden really expensive and so is gas. This is what's the pace of wages. We pull this data from the Economic Research Institute. They have a geographic assessor tool. They update it quarterly. So at the very top here, you can see that we took that number, the geographic cost of labor for Saginaw, it's 100.1. That's on a scale out of 100, with the US average being 100, and then we're taking that number for all of these localities where we had data, and then the difference to what Saginaw is. So I'll use that top example for Denton. We've got 103.6, so we adjusted Denton's data down 3.5% just to make it apples to apples to what the city of Saginaw is. We also applied adjustments to those published survey sources just to make sure that they're also kind of getting treated the same. And I'll pause on that one because this one is the doozy that I get questions on. So is there any questions on this one, Tavar?
So you said when you talk to these other peer organizations, they're pretty forthfront with giving you data?
Yeah.
They're pretty good?
We
Okay.
promise to give them an aggregate in exchange. So
Okay.
people want data.
We share back and forth and?
Yep.
Gotcha, okay.
Yep.
That's great.
Okay, so the results of the study, we had 84 positions included in the survey. We required at least 4 matches, so only one of those positions ended up with less than 4 matches. So we're ultimately able to get data for 83 positions. On average, about 8.5 matches per benchmark. It's pretty good. And then the reports that we prepared, looking at an aggregate, those market average minimum, midpoint maximums, we looked at a comparison of your midpoint versus the market average midpoint. We like to focus on the midpoint because that's commonly observed to be the market, quote unquote, so just looking where you stand against the market. That also included a little bit above, below market, just to have a conversation about your compensation philosophy. We've defined your market, now where do you want to be? Do you want to lead? Do you want to lag? Do you just want to set it at market? And then we also looked at your full pay range compared to the market, because you can set your pay plan at market, but if your pay ranges are too wide, it doesn't matter because your starting minimums won't be competitive. So we want to make sure we're looking at that full pay range as well. Compared to the market, I've got some data here. The minimums for the city are about 4.4% below the market average minimums. That's looking at an average of all the minimums compared to the city's minimums. For midpoints, about 13.2% below, and maximums about 19% below market. So just you can kind of see that shift getting bigger and bigger as you go. Okay, so what do we do with this? First, we want to look at your current pay plan. It's a step plan. It has 34 grades. The numbering starts at 17. There's 5% between each grade, and there's 3% between each step. So overall, that ends up with about a 26.5%, a little bit more than that, % spread. The spread is going to be the minimum to the maximum. Mathematically, step 4 acts like your midpoint. It's the middle step. And so we've got a starting midpoint in your current pay plan of about $45,000. So considering the market data and about 13% behind the curve at the midpoint, I didn't want to be too disruptive and build you a brand new pay plan that was just going to be way too much change. So I ultimately kind of kept this framework the same and focused on just shifting you guys closer to the market. So in the new pay plan, it's also a step plan, 36 grades, still 5% between those grades, 9 steps with 3% between. The biggest difference that you might notice here is just the numbering of the grades, and the numbering of the steps is different. But I do want to point out that this pay plan is going to be aligned to at market. So the midpoint, which is step E, represents 100% of market. So just to draw some comparisons, in this pay plan, we've got 2 extra grades. That's really the biggest difference to those parameters from 34 to 36. As I said, I wanted to keep those parameters the same just to kind of make sure there was a focus on just shifting you guys to the market. And the reason that I have changed the numbering of your grades and your steps is because this is still a new pay plan. I don't want there to be animosity over, well, I used to be in a grade 4 and now I'm in a 3. That nobody's getting downgraded. This is a new pay plan, and we are brand new establishing grade assignments into this pay plan.
Okay, can you go back? Can I stop you real quick?
Yeah.
Remind me, and this may be a question for you, when's the last time we redid the pay plan? Was it 17, 18? 17, okay, 2017, which is 7 years ago. Okay, thank you. Before we move on, any other questions, council, on this page? This is a big page.
All right. So also, before I built this pay plan, I also wanted to understand your current pay plan a little bit more. So I prepared a regression because we're kind of nerdy with compensation math, and I just like to prove what we're doing with math. So this regression is looking at range penetration compared to years in position. So range penetration is how far within the pay range is the salary. So 0%, you're at the starting, 50, you'd be at midpoint, 100, you're at max. So you can kind of see those percentages across the bottom, and then on the left side, you've got these years in position. So there should be a direct correlation, right? The longer you've been in your position, you should be moving through your pay range. Well, here, you guys don't have a correlation at all, almost. There's a lot of people below this 5-year mark who are really far within their range. So what this says is that your pay plan's not competitive. We already know that. You're having to hire so far into your range that you're creating that compression. It also says that people are not consistently moving through their ranges because they're all over the place. So in keeping the same step plan, kind of the theme here is you've got to use it like a step plan. You've got to be consistent in moving people through the range, or you're just going to end up with this problem again. I could build you 100 pay plans, but if you don't follow the rules, it doesn't matter. So that's what I made this regression to tell you that. You got to go step by year to be consistent in moving people through those ranges. And you also got to move your pay plan to be consistent with the market, because otherwise you'll end up with that compression and you can't hire people at your starting minimums. But I'll come back to some of that. So we've got this new pay plan. How do we get positions into the pay plan? We wanted to look at your existing equity. And to me, that terminology, that means what are your current midpoints? What are some of the grade groupings that you have, your career progressions, if you've got a 1, 2, 3 level, some of that supervisor-subordinate separation, just what's the existing hierarchy that's happening? But also the external equity. We just took a whole market study full of data. How do we make this make sense for your new grade assignments? So we first plugged positions in based on market. We made sure that none of those fell below where current midpoints are, so that they're not below where they were currently. Everybody's at least where they were or above it based on market. The things we did not consider in establishing grade assignments is the person. So the person in the position, their performance, length of service, their existing salary. I don't look at anybody's individual salary and say, oh, well, if I put you in this grade, you won't get a raise, so I'll put you in the next one. We don't do that. We're looking at the position, the value of the position. So just some more comparisons. In purple on this left side, looking at your current pay plan. With those 34 grades, about 21 of them are being used. So 5 grades have 7 or more positions assigned to them, so you've got some clustering happening. But then you've also got 19 grades that have no positions or 1 positions assigned to them. So very few grades of these 34s are being used. In the new pay plan, I've added 2 grades, but we're also spreading them out more. So no grade has more than 6 positions. Just trying to spread it out a little bit more. Hopefully that will help with the compression because you've got more supervisor-subordinate separation built in, some progression for levels and all of that.
Will you said compression several times. Will you
Yeah.
explain what that means, please, so everybody understands?
Sure. So compression, right now we're talking about compression of the position. So if you've got a position where to promote into a supervisor role means you lose your overtime, and it's not worth it for you to, because financially it's not enough of a separation, that's some compression. You've got people in a lower grade who are overlapping with their supervisor. So we want to try to spread things out a little bit more and incentivize the people that your homegrown people into being your future leaders, make it worth it for them. So compression is just, you don't want those positions up on top of each other so much that you can't move employees through those levels into leadership. Okay. So pay plan, now we've got the positions assigned to the pay plan. Let's talk about getting people into those pay plans or into the pay grades. So we have prepared 3 different scenarios looking at moving employees into those new ranges. I want to give some disclaimers that no employee would receive a decrease as a result of the study, that these numbers reflect.
Will you say that again so everybody hears that?
Yeah, no employee will receive a pay decrease as a result of the study.
Thank you.
The implementation represents base pay only. So this is not benefits, it's not contributions, it's not overtime or differentials, base pay only. Of the 153 staff that we calculated, and that includes 6 vacancies, 93 employees have a salary that's falling below their new minimum. That's because we've shifted pretty aggressively this pay plan. So we've got people falling off the pay plan. So that's about 61%. They're not even to their minimum. And then you've got about 60 employees who do have a salary that falls between their minimum and their maximum. And no employee had a salary above their new maximum. So in that scenario, we would just say red circle them anyway, but we don't have to worry about that because it didn't apply. But for these scenarios, no scenario would move anyone beyond step I, which is the maximum. So the 3 scenarios that we prepared, the first one is looking at moving employees to a step in their new pay range based on their existing salary without a decrease. So if they're 1 penny, they're going to the next step. So there is no decrease happening from their existing salary, whatever step is closest without a decrease. So for that means that those 93 employees who are below are going to ultimately move to step A with this scenario. That includes those 6 vacant positions. In step 2, we're looking at moving employees to a step that corresponds with their years in position. So if they've been in their title for 3 years, they'd move to the 3rd step, step C. And then the 3rd one is looking at doing the same thing, but with years of service. So if you've been with the city for 6 years, you go to the 6th step, regardless of how long you've been in your position. So looking at the dollar amounts of these and kind of a comparison across that, you can see obviously implementation option 1 is going to be the cheaper option because it's really just looking at getting everyone onto the pay plan. That would be the minimum action that the city would need to take to adopt this pay plan. That's the least you'd have to do to get everyone onto this pay plan to say that you're using it. The next one, which is looking at moving employees based on years in position, is going to be, the next highest, and then the final one being the most highest. I'll say Baker Tilly's recommendation is going to be option 2, and that's because you've got 60% of your employees who are now falling at the minimum. And for people who've been here more than 1 or 2 or 3 years, the minimum is not the appropriate placement for them. Now we're talking about compression of the people. People who have been in this, you've got, 3 people in the same title. One's been here for 10 years, one's been here for 10 minutes, and they're making the same. And so this option 2 is going to help build that separation back in. Option 3, the reason I don't recommend that one is because if you've been with the city for 10 years, but last year you made manager, your pay range is tied to your title. You're now in a manager pay range. We don't want to move you 10 years through a pay range that is new, for a position that's new to you. So really option 2 would be the most equitable way to adopt this pay plan. And then finally, our recommendations. I don't want to shock you, but we want you to approve everything we've done. So the proposed step plan, which is aligned at market, to approve those grade assignments that we established with feedback from your department heads, to approve an implementation scenario that's going to address your business plan, your compensation philosophy, but also one that's sustainable, affordable. My biggest recommendation is this last thing, is doing things like this to maintain and administer your pay plan going forward. So making those market adjustments, making step increases annually. You've got to do, the best maintenance you can do is both of those every year to keep pace with market and to move employees through those pay ranges. But then also routinely reviewing your job description, making sure that documentation is up to date as well.
How often do you recommend reviewing job positions, market conditions? How often would that review take place?
The best way is as positions come open and you're posting, to review those, and then maybe just make sure you're looking a third, to, like, you know, a third this year, a third the next year, just to make sure every job description gets a look.
I see. Okay. That's good. No, that's good advice. Council questions?
So, this is more what you gave. So gave your options with all these recommendations. I mean, there's a lot of lifting here to do. So, I mean, I would go back to what page it was. The new job titles. So we would need the employee handbook would need to get there, right? To define what each, what it would take, say, to go from 100 to 100.
Right, so we've established those grade assignments, and we're also going to be providing recommendations for pay policies. So hiring, where into the range can you go, promotions, reclassifications, how often you should update it, et cetera.
If I'm an employee, I want to know what skill sets I need to get.
Hey, Nick, will you turn on your microphone, please? Nobody
I
can.
thought it did. I would need to know, we would need it in an employee handbook, exactly what these new roles are and what an employee would want, what they need to get, whether it's a different certification or different skill set or, you know, something like that, right? That'd be
Yeah,
part of it.
I guess we'd include, you're asking the job descriptions be part of the handbook? Because we have job descriptions for all employees or all positions now. But
Well, these are new positions, so we
No, no,
would
no.
need to match the old to the new positions,
No,
right?
we're not talking about new positions. The pay plan would be new, so the grade and the assignment would be new, but the actual positions are not.
Okay, then, how do I go from one grade to another? How do I know?
Oh, we're going to provide the list, the full list of title and grade assignments that we've prepared. We're going to be handing that over, so it should be communicated to employees what the new grade should be.
Okay, what the skill sets they need to be able to move into?
Now-
Or, I mean, if the city promotes just on time, like, I'm here 2 years and I get promoted, that's fine, just,
So one thing we implemented relatively recently is we have a career development plan form where employees kind of let us know what their desire is. And so that sort of triggers a conversation to talk about, okay, if you'd like to promote, here's what you need to do. Here's the training, that sort of thing.
okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I should be able to go look up, say, whatever this is, it's got 102. I should be able somewheres, if I'm an employee of Saginaw, I should be able to go, or even look up and say, okay, 20 or 102, what is the skill set I need to have that position?
Well, so, yeah, agreed. And so what we'll have, once this is all reconciled, is all the positions at all the grades. So then you can see, you know, animal services officer is here.
Right.
Youth librarian is here, yeah, in the various levels.
But these steps, even if you're a librarian, these steps are within that, right?
That's
To
correct.
go
So the-
from one to another, I mean,
The sign-
I'm a librarian, how do I move up as a librarian? I don't want, maybe I love being a librarian, but I don't want to, you know.
So I think the progression maybe is what Ms. Kent shared. And I want to recognize the work of the council, thank the council, but the council adopted a compensation philosophy as part of the budget last year, which basically says what Ms. Kent has recommended, that if we adopt a pay plan, that we commit to it with cost of living adjustments and moving people through the step. So that is very important to continue to do that.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is like a water guy, we have a water tech 1, and a water tech 2. So they have to get certifications to move that.
You see that right there, that page right there? Every single one of those, I want an exact description of what it takes to become those.
That's a job description for every position. Yeah, we've
absolutely.
got that. Yep.
The other thing, and Kim, I guess this goes to you, somehow we would need a implementation plan, right? I mean, not for Kim, I guess that'd be you two. Who's gonna put, I don't even know if we're voting on this today, or if
No,
we're gonna wait.
Not voting, it's just a presentation.
Okay, but we'll eventually need an implementation plan, and then, Kim, I guess I lean on you, how do we pay for this?
Well, that's the big trick, right? And I want to say that the numbers here just are salary, so add 30% to that for payroll taxes, TMRS. So
Yeah.
it's a big number.
Yeah, oh, yeah, I mean, the employees are the biggest asset we got, right? So,
I would add two, and the Employee Survey Committee, this wasn't a focus, but my understanding, I haven't been involved with this, but there's been a strong support from the council members who've been, a part of that, commit to getting to market-based competitive salaries, which we very much appreciate. But really, this information, as well as if you recall, I think our past two council meetings ago, where we showed the future positions, that's essentially all the capacity between taking care of existing employees and thinking about future employees that we would have. I also think it's a good opportunity to educate the public and those listening. It is election season, as you know, and it is very popular. You get this, you are elected volunteers, you do this in a capacity because you care about the community for a whopping $25 a meeting. So I don't envy your position, because every day you've got people saying, lower my taxes, right? The no new revenue tax rate, and this discussion I had with Councilmember Lawson, at face value sounds really good, right? We bring in the same tax revenue on the same properties as we did the previous year. The problem is our costs, and let's take salaries out of the equation, to provide the service are not fixed. Our electricity in this room went up, and I'm pretty confident the council is not going to say, you know what, we're going to turn the lights off at the library, America's favorite library. So I guess what I'm saying is we have some conversations to have, and I don't envy your position where if we say we want to keep services the same, it's going to cost more, plus take care of our employees. I'm very appreciative, too, and I'm off my soapbox, the leadership of the mayor and the council in our raises last year. So imagine, had we not done our 10% raises, what this would look like. It would be double the amount or much more, so.
yeah, it's very good, very well. I didn't review it real quick because it came late. I did ask for it early, though, so I could get a look at it. It's very, I can tell you guys put a lot of effort into it, so it's good. My biggest concern here is we need to act upon it. We spend a lot of money to do this. Our employees are important. I'd really, really like to see, in pretty short order, an implementation plan, and then from our finance director, how, what's this look like from, how would this affect our budget, and how would we implement recommendations on two? That's just me from individual from council.
Well, just as Gabe mentioned, it's going to take a tax increase, and
Yeah.
we'll probably have to plan on going the de minimis tax rate, which is the highest that we can go without an election. And I want to remind y'all, too, that includes the accelerated time schedule. So I know that was some of the feedback, that the council wanted more time to deliberate, but that is one of the downsides, I guess, of going that route, is the accelerated schedule. So those are kind of givens if we're going to fund this.
So what if we take a diminished tax rate? Okay, that's fine, but what if that's too much to bite at one time? What if we do it over a 2-year period? Half this year, half next year, something like that.
Well, the other thing I was going to say is, too, we won't get our certified values to the end of July, but we'll start getting preliminary values the very end of April. So in addition to the de minimis tax rate, then we'll have 50% of whatever our new value is, and I don't really have a good idea of what that is, but in April 30th, the end of April, we'll have an idea of that. So that's over and above what
Right.
the, what we calculate in the current tax rate. And we get this general fund and debt service fund gets 50% of that increased value. The other 50% will go into the TERS. So those are the big ongoing funding sources for this.
I would say too, that's very positive for our city. Credit to the council. Thankfully, I was lucky enough to be hired in 2018, and the council, of which majority is still on the council that hired me. You made a good decision. Thank you. We created an economic development department, right? Which is a long-term investment. And only now, after I've been here 6 years and some change, hopefully I can double that or at least make double digits. Now we're seeing that seed that's been planted really start to pay off. So, we had the ribbon cutting that I think most everybody was there for Tim Hortons for the Firehouse Subs. That's all sales tax that will directly benefit our employees, especially the CCPD, sales tax that will go to help our police budget. It will directly benefit the average resident. It's dedicated towards property tax reduction. So yes, it's a big ask. The good news is we're in a strong financial position. We're growing, and we've got a lot of, promising retail and restaurant opportunities coming. So it's really an exciting time. And my last soapbox, Mayor, if you permit me, we absolutely, if a majority of the city council says, you know what, staff, city manager, you need to cut our tax rate, I can count to 4, right? Farm boys, we're finger counters. I can do it. But if you'll recall, last year, we went through an exercise. The council will have to tell us, what services are we going to cut? Right. So if you, again, it's election season and people are saying, cut my taxes, we absolutely can do it. But we can't keep the same services, right? And if that's the direction, which I don't think it has been, even though some people will, whatever.
Yeah, the city budget is no different than all of our individual budgets.
Right.
Right? We got a certain amount of money.
You're right.
We either go out and get a second job and bring more money in. The city gets to tax the individual thing. That's how they go get their second job. Or you cut services.
Right.
And that's really, we're not in the start new businesses, because that would be directly competing against the private sector, and that kind of goes against the grain of what cities are. So understand that. And to me, like I say, I looked at it. I don't know what the rest, I'd like to hear what the rest of my council members think.
Can you go back one slide, please, to the chart with the options on it? There you go.
That
Four,
one.
that's the one. There you go. And this is the one that most of our city employees that are sitting here will be interested in. So you look at the options, we are free to choose one of these options or not, or choose another option. Last year, we did increase salaries by 10%. I would anticipate this year we will do at least option 1. How much more? I don't know. We need to see the numbers. As Kim said, we don't have the numbers yet. I can't sit here and pie in the sky. As we said, I know sales tax has been positive. Don't know all the final numbers yet, all the valuations yet. A lot of unknowns on our budget today. But good news is we're not selling any new bonds this year. Nobody needs a new fire truck this year. So no, the big expenses we're okay with. Our biggest expense is going to be employees and taking care of our employees. And I think this council has made a commitment in the last several years to do that. I think we'll continue to do that. I don't know the number yet. I can't tell you that. Anybody who tells you that tonight we're just guessing. So, but we've got some discussions to do in the near future. But this is great information to start on. To see, we want to know where we were. We have to know where we are relative to the market, and this gives us a good idea. We're closer. We're actually maybe better than I thought we'd be, and that's good. I think that is a testament to what we did last year and the last 2 or 3 years. So where we end up, I don't know yet. Can't say tonight, but I know that we're going to do the best we can to get closer to this, to get our employees in a more competitive situation. We realize our employees are our biggest strength of our city. It's what makes our city fantastic, and we will continue to do that. But finances are not unlimited, so we have to make some hard decisions, and we will, and that's okay. But we've got time. But this is a great start for us to start thinking where we need to go and what we want to do. So employees, be patient. We will take care of you. You can see the numbers where things line up that we at least understand where we are. This is what reality is. So how we address this, we've got to figure that out. But I think we're in a good spot. As Gabe mentioned, we've got a lot of things coming, economic development-wise, that will bring new tax revenue in. Without tax increase, bring new tax revenue in, which is very positive. This growth is a bit of a double-edged sword. It does need more services, but it does bring more tax revenue in. So how we manage that will be key, but it also presents a tremendous opportunity for us. So I'm excited. I'm glad we got to see this tonight. I think I probably said more than Nikki wanted to hear, but any other folks have any thoughts on that? Other council members have thoughts? Mary, please.
Either Ms. Kent or Gabe or Kim or all three. If we continue to try to get our staff at a competitive level, how many years do you think it would take for us to do that if we continue at the same rate we're going right now?
I don't want to speak for everybody, but when you have established market data, it's a difficult discussion to have with either a potential employee or an existing employee to say, hey, we like you, we want you to be here, but we can't pay you the average or what the market says you were. So my response is as soon as possible. It really needs to be addressed. Again, want to thank the council for taking a bold move, especially with the compensation philosophy that says, look, this is important to us, we're committed to it. So I wouldn't want to speculate other than I think all us staff would agree that option 2 is where we need to be. We'll also say that last year when the salary adjustments were made, we've pretty well seen, and if you're interested, each department head could weigh in, either more or better applicants as a direct result of that. So people are watching, whether they're potential applicants or, once we have vacancies, it makes a big difference. Please go ahead.
I have a follow-up question. So the sooner we get our staff paid at the right rate, the sooner we can look at adding positions. Is that correct?
So I think kind of logically, I think back to, I was a math major once upon a time, and I revert to geometry in high school, if, then, therefore. So the order of operations, if we take care of existing employees in our pay plan, then we kind of examine new positions. Now, we did add a new position in the fire department, which had been talked about for several months. Well received. We got good quality applicants and have filled those vacancies. So, yeah, we've got to get with market. I would say, without getting into the weeds too much, but the first option, the 5.8%, definitely a step in the right direction, but creates compression, which is the problem we're trying to get away from. I liked Ms. Kent's, been here 10 years or 10 minutes. That's a problem that is expensive to correct. So, yeah.
And Marion, actually, this is probably going to be an ongoing thing. We can't fix it, even if we do option 2. Next year, we'll have to look at something new.
Yeah.
It's not a one-time thing. It's something you have to continue to bite that apple over and over again, and just stay on top of it.
But if we implement option 2 with the plan, if we at least evaluate it, now this is my absolute position on this, is elected officials have a tendency to kick the can down the road of uncomfortable things, and this is an uncomfortable thing. And unfortunately for me, I'm the type of person who, if it's uncomfortable, I just want to rip it off and get it over with, and that's the way I am with this. We got to do it. I ain't saying we have to do it all right now, but we need, to me, I at least want to leave here today with looking at Gabe and giving him and his staff direction to come up with an implementation plan for number 2. And what would it look like? I honestly think that's the next step. I'm afraid if we don't do that and we don't give Gabe that, then he don't have no direction. This very well-written thing will be put on a shelf and it'll collect dust, and, you know, we'll go through this year's budget and we'll start looking at it, and we'll do the absolute bare minimum, and we will be in compression, and we'll constantly be behind the 8 ball. So let's go ahead, at least do the evaluation and say, okay, we paid good money to find out what we need to do. Now let's find out what it would actually take to actually do it. And that's an implementation plan.
We need to, at some point, vote on the new salary plan. How would that work?
So I think, and I wasn't here in 2017, but I think that was adopted by the council. Is that correct, the pay plan?
Okay. So that'd be definitely one of the steps, but
Yeah.
we can outline all those steps. But yeah, that certainly will need to come before the council. We're not voting on anything tonight. Everybody know,
Correct.
this is a presentation, sort of a,
But we can give Gabe direction to go do an implementation plan, and so, like, some of this stuff we can do, and it don't cost the city any money, like, go to the new structure, right? The old versus new.
Well, I don't think so.
Yeah, this right here, we can change that, look at all the roles, or all of that, that can all be upfront work that we can do. And then we can look at the actual you know, at the same time, implementation plan, and see what can we eat without, you know, without killing ourselves, choking on it.
Sure. Yeah, we can get that, and we can get the full, as Kim mentioned, this is just salary, not the, you know, the full impact to the budget.
And we really need that before, or by time we actually start looking at the budget and setting that limit. I'll tell you all right now, if I don't have some understanding of this, I will not vote on this year's budget without just something here. So I'll just throw that on the table right now, that we got to address this. Not the whole thing, but we have to have a plan, at least a plan, and committed to working to it. That's my commitment to the employees of the city, so.
How much more effort would it be to include the other 2 options? A plan to go forward, like Nick's asking for option number 2? Would it be that much more effort? I don't know what all's involved in trying to put that together, but I'd be kind of curious.
I mean, option for 1, 2, and 3, or?
Yes.
Or plans.
Option- Plans for 1, 2, and 3.
Well, my goal was to try to come up with a plan to get us to option 2.
Yeah.
You know, and depending on how many years that would take, but ideally, we want to do it in 1 year, because if it's going to take more than 1 year, then we're going to be behind with whatever market adjustment and then the next step, right? So,
Right.
So that's the plan. You know, there are other options that have been discussed as, I called it like a 1.5, is, you know, maybe not get everybody all the way up to the steps based on years, but, you know, the ones that are most behind get done first. You know, so there are ways to take steps,
Right.
but to get there as much, you know, the majority of it, or get there as much as we can. But again, we can come up with all the scenarios we want, but I'm limited in the estimates that I can do. I'll feel much more comfortable when I at least get the first values in April to know what we've got as far as new value, because that's going to be where the new revenue's coming in, other than the de minimis rate.
Well, that's why I was asking, you know, how much more effort it would be. I mean, if it's going to be a lot, you know, it's okay. We'll just go with option 2.
Well, this is the most, I think, important issue, so it doesn't matter the effort. We'll put in whatever it takes to get us there, to come up with a plan.
Yeah, I think, you know, once Kim gets all the numbers, she can plug a lot of numbers, do a lot of different scenarios for us then, but we just won't have numbers for a while. That's, you know, where she's stuck right now. But we can have a plan in place, and we approve the new salary structure. We can do that. We can just approve that. That's one step. Then a few other pieces down the line, and get everything lined up so we can make a decision once we have the data, which comes late. Unfortunately, we get very anxious and frustrated, but once we have real data, so we know exactly where we're going to be.
You really need to know the true thing with the 30%.
Well, the option one is 852,000. Option two is 1,847,000.
Okay. There you go.
Including payroll taxes and TMRS. I didn't do option three.
May not like the answer, she always does the answer. Those are, those are big numbers. Those are big numbers. Okay. Any other questions for Jada? We've had her stand, we're doing some internal discussion. Any other questions for this? And this is a great presentation on a lot of work. Yeah, it's a lot of work, and I appreciate it.
So last thing, Mayor, and for the employees in the audience, we're going to have Ms. Kent answer questions, which will be similar to this presentation. Everybody has this information, which has been good. So, you know, the actual specifics we haven't got into yet, like, you know, where is person A going to move or that sort of thing. But we're happy to answer questions, and just want to close in thanking, you know, all of our directors. A lot of work and a lot of effort, and thank you to Melanie and Ms. Kent. This is very thorough.
So Ms. Kennedy, or Jada, is going to present to the employees and answer questions as well?
Yeah, I think we're going to, yeah.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
I appreciate that, because they're going to be very interested in this. This is a good starting point, but they have I'm sure a lot of detailed questions. But thank you for
Yeah.
all the work and for coming before us and then before the employees as well. Anything else? Okay? Great. Thank you, man. Thank you,
Thank you.
Melanie, as well. Thank you, everybody, for the very hard work. I appreciate all the employees for staying and listening to us. That's awesome. All right, so that is 3, so we're on to 4. Item 4, pursuant to Texas Government Code 551.087, deliberation regarding economic development, we will have a building improvement grant executive session discussion, and then we'll come back here to adjourn. So at, what time? 7:01, we're in executive session.